of that leave while you're still crying.
I'm live, I think. Oh dear. Ooh. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to sunny, overcast Adelaide. For some of you, it's probably late in the evening, but this morning, well, it's bright and early. Well, not bright. Welcome to my first live video. Not the best for anxiety levels, but yeah, here I am with my first cup of tea. Hang on, which my hubby got me. My first cup of tea. For the day, and a stack of videos to watch. So, oh, damn. Okay, I think that's back to front. And ready to celebrate 30 years of steampunk. Now, some of you have already started. Oh my goodness, posting pictures. Yay! Keep doing that. That's really good. I'll be here most of the day, and Lynn Lumsden Green from Steampunk Sunday Queensland, Australia. She has a Facebook page. She's a writer as well. She'll be joining us on and off today as well. She's in Queensland, where I used to live. Hi, Lynn, if you're around, and everyone else in Queensland. She'll be talking about Australian steampunk writers later on, because I bet you didn't know there's as many as there are. It's probably more than she knows as well. Gadgets. She loves gadgets, and she'll be doing a little live post later. And about 2, I think I'm doing another live post just to talk about steampunk again. Hopefully, if I can handle the tea. If the tea keeps coming, David. Yes. So why are we here today? We're actually here to celebrate 30 years of steampunk. But wait, I hear you say steampunk's been around a lot longer than 30 years, and you're correct. Steampunk has been around a lot longer, emerging in visual and written form. So you've got 1979, you had Mortlock Knight and Uber Skates in 83, Homunculus in 86, Infernal Devices by K.W. Jetta in 87, and earlier still, Michael Moorcock wrote stories about steampunk with steampunk elements, enshrining airships in the as yet unnamed genre. His stories were an alternate history, not necessarily set in the Victorian era, like Warlord of the Air, Land of the Leviathan, and the Steel Tsar, and that was between 71 and 82. Television tinkered with steampunk. As early as 1965, there was a show called Wild Wild West, which was a television series before it was a movie, and that started on the 17th of September 1965. It's my birthday. Shh, don't tell anyone. So I think it was just meant to be that I was supposed to be into steampunk, so that was really cool. I use my hands a lot, I'm so sorry. So it's April, and officially steampunk celebrates its 30th birthday because it was an April edition of The Locust in 1987 that K.W. Jetta actually termed the term steampunk. So that's that thing, and it's back the front, so I'll have to edit that in later. I'll actually pop that in the comments as well. Let's see if I can do that. How do I do that? Technology and I don't necessarily agree, so you'll have to... No, I'm doing it. It's okay. I'm going to do it. Put it down there. So the quote should... There it is. So the quote's turned up in the actual letter that he wrote to... Oh, it's popped up on my screen. I don't know whether it's popped up on your screen. So the letter that he wrote to Locust was where the term was first found to be written, and so there's other places around the world celebrating 30 years of steampunk, but in Australia, well, New Zealand, if they had done something, yay! Hello, Kat Douglas. They get to do it first, we get to do it first, so we can make it last 2 days, but not me. I'm going to be sleepy after all this. So today we actually celebrate Steampunk Anniversary, the 30th anniversary of its naming day. So this will be an interactive virtual event. Feel free to join in the conversations, and there are people already posting photos of party costumes. Yay! Thank you very much. Feel free to join in the conversations. Say your bit. Everyone's that's what we're here for, to talk about steampunk, and keep popping up those. There's another one posting those steampunky pics for us all to admire. So okay, so well, that's enough of me. So I think I'm going to let people get started, and I'll just do a little post a comment below on the next thing there. So see you later, and see you later in the day, and have a good day. Okay, bye.
Tell me everything that's on your mind. Gotta keep me in line. Switch of the whip, gotta stitch up your lip. Gotta beat before you fire, but it's no use to quit mine.
Good morning. My name's Lynn Lumsden Green, and this morning we're celebrating 30 years of steampunk. I love steampunk. I love steampunk. So I'm going to do this morning, to start off our celebrations, a quick and rough basic about Australian steampunk authors. This is our list. This is not a complete list, but this is a robust selection of authors who have had some success in publishing books. Wanting to be fair, there are self-published authors as well as traditionally published authors on this list. My goal today is to introduce new readers to the steampunk genre, as well as celebrating the very best in Australian creativity. Scott Westerfeld. Now, as you can see, there's a link to his webpage there. Susan Ruth. Now, Susan is not a traditionally published author. This is an author I've only just recently come across, so I haven't had a chance to read her book yet. But from other people who've told me about her, and there's her website to link there on there as well. This is Michael Pryor. Now, Michael Pryor is probably the best known, apart from Scott Westerfeld, of all our authors that we've got online today. Richard Harland. Now, Richard has really thrown himself into the steampunk aesthetic. He's thrown himself into the steampunk lifestyle. This is the person who introduced me to steampunk, Ged Maybury. He was the person who actually brought the term and the lifestyle and the aesthetic and the genre to my attention, upon which I completely and utterly fell in love. Lance Fulchen, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly as well. He's recently on the short list for the Children's Books Council of Australia for his book Mechanica, which is a bunch of books. Personally very fond of David because he's a zoologist like me, and he is much more environmentally friendly than I am, because he catches his own food, grows his own food, fixes his own machines, farms, you name it, he can do it. He's a real action man, and he writes fabulous books. This is a new author for me. I've only just found out about him recently. He was living in America, but he's Australian and he's back in Australia. It's Leo Champion. Felicity Banks. Now, Felicity writes steampunk for young adults. Yep. I've saved the best for last because, let's face it, you can't get any better than Karen. Now, Karen is the person who reminded me or brought it to my attention that today is steampunk coining of the word birthday, and that, there was nothing being done to celebrate it. So I jumped on board. She's the boss. She's in charge today, but this is me supporting her as much as I possibly can because she is a brilliant author. The very last person on this list is me. Looking for steampunk books. Not everything labelled steampunk is the real deal. So, are you a science geek? Try reading the work of Jules Verne, Oscar Wilde, H.G. Wells and Charles Dickens and other Victorian writers. These aren't steampunk books as such, but they are in the same family. If you like steampunk, try these writers if you've already read it. You can also look for the term gaslight fantasies, because most of the action in steampunk prose takes place in the light of gas lamps. Last but not least, do you want to write steampunk? Excellent! You know, the world can never have too many steampunk writers or just writers. You should join whatever your local writing centre is. Keep attending conferences, because conferences is where you get to meet like-minded people who can tell you about authors. Learn grammar and editing, leading me up to joining a writers group. Writers groups are fabulous. This one might seem particularly obvious. Read mountains about the Victorian era, particularly about scientists and innovations of the era, but you'd be surprised how many people don't. Write an actual story. But finally, have fun. Hunt these books down. If you've got any books that you'd like to recommend from Australian authors that I've missed, please share. Now, if you've got any overseas authors, please share. Love you all. Mwah.
Hello again, everyone. Lynn had her talk this morning about writers, and this afternoon I'm going to talk about, well, a few different things actually. Who am I? Well, I'm Karen, obviously. I'm a writer. I do costuming. I'm an artist. I'm a photographer, and I've actually like to call myself a reimagineer, because what I'm doing is I'm reimagining historical stuff as steampunky stuff, and fantasy and other things as well. So what first intrigued me about steampunk was that it melded so many things together. So, okay, I'm a costumer, and I have been a costumer since the early 80s, and I'm talking really early 80s. I used to do, well, we still do it, but D&D, and we did D&D costumes and science fiction costumes, and one of my first costumes was a Doctor Who costume. So I can't deny that when I started seeing these gorgeous Victorian costumes, I was pretty excited. So you've got the bustles and the skirts and the corsets. And so my favourite one, okay, so my favourite one is my Union Jack there you go. So who needs a waistcoat when you've got a Union Jack corset? So costuming got me there. Okay, so I got the fun of doing costuming because I love archaeology and I love historical research. So I got costuming, historical research, and then I had the fun of adding fantasy bits. Bit there that goes on like that with my friend Henry the Octopus. Yes, I know it's a Wiggles reference, but it wasn't. And one of my favourites is my pair of wings. Whoops. And just knock everything over here. So this is my pair of wings that actually go down. Another thing I like about steampunk is I've always been a bit of a greeny, eco sort of recycler thing, going to the op shops and stuff like that. And I like the fact that I can use something that's been thrown away or something that someone thinks is not useful and turn it into something that is useful and or beautiful. So I've been doing that for years and years and years, and now I get to do that with my steampunk clothing. So what else do I like about steampunk? Well, it's costuming and fun and research and more costuming, and there's got fun events. So we have events. I'll be talking more about events later tonight, and we'll getting people to share your events as well. And so that of course, I write. I fell back into writing quite unexpectedly a couple of years ago. I used to do some writing, then I didn't, then I did, and I didn't. And I'm glad I did, because I'm much happier and much healthier since I've been writing now. And I get to indulge my love of steampunk and fantasy and other things as well. With writing steampunk, I get to do my logical science fiction-y stuff and add in the what if. And I often love the what if as in, what if in history the reason for that particular thing happening was ... I'm planning a few stories set in Australia. Yay, Australia! We actually do have an amazing history here, so there's just so many ideas, and Australian writers, we write differently. We have a different way of thinking than overseas, and it's starting to get more popular for people to read Australian writers. So the main thing is steampunk is, there's no set rule for steampunk. You can have steampunk Star Wars, steampunk Doctor Who, steampunk. You can have steampunk light, as some people call it, with hardly any gadgets, and it's mostly sort of Victorian looking things. You can be dripping with gadgets and fake arms and robotic this and that and thing, whatever you prefer. And that's the good thing about it, is there's no set rules. You can do what you want to do, and it's fun. I love the whimsy, and I think that has helped me a lot with the anxiety I get, because it's this whimsical thing, and there's no strict structural rules, and that's why I love steampunk. So yeah,
Steampunk cosplay, because, you know, if you like reading it, you're going to want to dress up in it. Steampunk cosplay is less about spending cash and more about recycling and creativity. Become a second-hand Rose and haunt your junk shops for vintage clothing and bits of clockwork and electronics, old jewellery and anything made out of leather. Leather belts, best thing. These are 2 different leather belts that I have put together to make a very steampunk looking item of clothing. Don't fall into the trap of thinking the Victorian era was drab. That is a misconception caused by the black and white photography of the era. Not all steampunk gadgets. This is one of them. See these beautiful gadgets. This is the reason that I really got into steampunk in a big way. Is there's all these great little things. Now I'm going to do a video on gadgets, which are my pretty much favourite things about steampunk that's not to do with writing. Now, it's actually a tiny little cannon. Isn't that adorable? Now, steampunk gadgets. When you're a steampunk cosplayer, the difference between historical recreation and being an actual steampunk cosplayer is pretty much the gadgets, such as this adorable little resin gun. It's one of my prized treasures. It actually doesn't belong to me, and it's very easy for a beginner to make over a little. This is just a little plastic gun that's been given a bit of a dainty spray with some metallic paint, and now it looks like a steampunk ray gun. Nerf guns are very much the favourite for these sort of makeovers, but this is an actual little water gun. Steampunk is like copper, brass, metallic things, such as this little beauty. I'm sorry if I get a little bit lost with what the light's doing there. It is a little sundial. My hats, of course, I've bought myself. Those goggles are just welding goggles from Bunnings with a bit of copper coloured metallic paint. Then there's my aviator goggles. Those sort of things are very easy to find and source yourself. You can go and buy ready-made beautiful gadgets. This is actually an opera glass. Ready-made gadgets as well. This is, if you're a Doctor Who fan, River Song's beautiful, didn't need anything done to it to make it look steampunk. It's her sonic screwdriver, and it lights up. Which, what else can you use as a gadget? Anything, really. This is a tea-ball. You fill it with cogs, and it's a steampunk tea-ball. But as tea and steampunk go together like bacon and eggs, chocolate and riders, a tea-ball or any form of tea-related gadget is going to fit in with a steampunk theme. I've even dressed and cosplayed as a steampunk tea lady. Things that I have picked up, they are little brass light fittings that go on fairy lights. And at some point they're going to be all stuck together. There's about 8 of them in a row to be part of a ray gun. Steampunk gadgets. You collect things to put them together to make them into gadgets. And I mean, that looks pretty boring at the moment, but it's amazing what some good beads, such as these little suckers, and a bit of imagination can do to make beautiful things. This is a chatelaine. Now, a chatelaine was something that Victorian women wore because they didn't have pockets in their dresses. We won't get into the whole why aren't there pockets in women's dresses debate. But as you can see, that is just a collection of interesting objects, such as a pair of scissors, a key, some beads, some little bottles. That is actually an old typewriter key. Buying or making your own gadgets. Now, that's a bought item. My ring's a bought item. I'm going to put that back on now. By the way, just so that for those who missed it this morning, this is my mosquito robot. Isn't it gorgeous? Another little gadget. I really do like gadgets. It's not a put on. Do you make them or you buy them? Well, I make some and I buy some. Upcycling, recycling is a really big part of the steampunk aesthetic. So I really do try to upcycle things, such as my goggles. You might notice I've got little bits and pieces dangling off me everywhere. It's easy to make yourself look gadgety with a little bit of imagination and some research on the internet, because believe me, there are pictures everywhere and if you go onto Pinterest, they'll even tell you how to do it. Cogs are a big part of it. So something that's got a moving part like this is fascinating, but not just fascinating, pretty much interesting. But it's hard unless you're really technically clever to make things like that. Of course, there are people who are really technically clever and can make things like that. So for those people, just bear in mind that anything that you make that moves shouldn't be considered too dangerous if you're going to be going to places like Supernova to show off your gear. You don't want to zap somebody by mistake or cover them in goo. My hat that I was wearing this morning, as you can see, studded, chained. My personal favourite part is the little skull-shaped pirate. I'm in the process of planning a pair of steampunk wings, which I'm going to make out of a pair of open and closed fans. They won't be terribly technical because I'm more of a writer than a technician, but by the same token, I'm going to give it a go. And that's the whole idea behind steampunk too. Give it a go. An 80s jacket that I took the sleeves off, did a bit of modification to turn it into a waistcoat, and then and I picked it because the fabric was absolutely amazing, and the Victorians really liked amazing fabric. Go into toy shops and see what you can find. I mean, they don't have to be big expensive toys, they can be nice cheap. I think this, and just run with it. if it doesn't work, go back and play with it some more. I mean, you don't have to show anybody until they're ready to be seen. And the best part of it is there is so many different aesthetics that you can go for. Steampunk, diesel punk look, which is a little bit valve punk, where you're actually using valves and lights. But I have got my own backpack for the Steampunk Ghostbusters. I have put a photo up. The only thing that limits you is your imagination. And like I said, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money to be steampunk. Second-hand rosing is part of the aesthetic and is part of the culture. Personally, I love gadgets so much. So, let's steampunk gadget everything. And I'll talk to you again later.
Da, 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 da.